Understanding Sweden, Episode 9, 200 Years on the Sidelines. The last time Sweden went to war against another country was at the start of the 19th century. Sweden is one of the few countries in the world that has had peace for such a long, unbroken stretch of time. 200 years without war. It's easy to take that as a kind of national character trait. But there's a backstory to this peace, and it's about defeat, not virtue. In the war against Russia, from 1808 to 1809, Sweden lost Finland, and Finland had been part of Sweden for almost 700 years. 700 years, longer than many of today's countries have even existed. A few years later, as a result of the Napoleonic Wars, Norway was forced into a union with Sweden. And in 1905, Norway became an independent country, peacefully. So there's the answer. After all that, Swedish policy was aimed at avoiding new wars. The country tried being big, lost half of itself, and drew its conclusion. The long peace isn't softness, it's a lesson learned. Staying out of it pays better than fighting. Let's remember from this part. The last war against another country was at the start of the 19th century. In the war with Russia in 1808 and 1809, Sweden lost Finland, which had been part of Sweden for almost 700 years. And Norway became independent peacefully in 1905. After the Second World War, the world, and Europe, ended up in the Cold War. It was a conflict between two blocs, the Western one, above all the United States and its allies, and the Eastern one, the Soviet Union and its allies. The two sides threatened each other with nuclear weapons and powerful armies, and this is where Northern Europe went separate ways. Denmark and Norway joined the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Sweden stayed neutral and chose to remain outside NATO. In 1991, the security situation in Europe changed. The Soviet Union fell, and the Cold War ended. Sweden joined the European Union in 1995 and became more closely tied into European cooperation. And then something happened that broke a 200-year line. When Russia attacked Ukraine in 2022, worry about security in Northern Europe grew. So Sweden and Finland decided, almost at the same time, to apply for NATO membership, a defense alliance whose purpose is to protect its member countries. Sweden became a member in 2024. Notice how fast that was. 200 years of neutrality, 70 of them a deliberate no to NATO, and 2 years to turn around. It's worth hearing that not as political news, but as a sign. This country changes its mind slowly, but when it does, it changes completely. Let's remember, during the Cold War, Denmark and Norway joined NATO, and Sweden stayed outside. The Soviet Union fell in 1991. Sweden joined the European Union in 1995. After Russia attacked Ukraine in 2022, Sweden and Finland applied, and Sweden became a NATO member in 2024. Now let's sort out exactly where Sweden takes part. There are 4 levels, starting with the closest and moving out to the furthest. Level 1, the neighbors. Sweden works together with the other Nordic countries, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Norway, mainly through the Nordic Council and the Nordic Council of Ministers. Both councils reach agreements on all kinds of questions, and then each country can put those agreements into practice at home. Notice the word can. An agreement here isn't an order, it's a shared intention. Level 2, the European Union. This is political and economic cooperation between a number of European countries. It began after the Second World War, to build peace and stability in Europe. Sweden has been a member since 1995. The member countries work together in many areas: agriculture, the economy, the environment, trade, migration. They make joint decisions and create laws that apply in every member country. The main idea behind the Union is simple. Together, countries are stronger. And for an ordinary person, that comes down to 4 freedoms. People can study, move, work, and sell goods freely between countries. For example, any citizen of the Union can work or study in another Union country. Level 3, and people mix it up with Level 2 all the time. Sweden is also a member of the Council of Europe. That's a separate European organization, founded in 1949, and it works for human rights, democracy, and the principles of the rule of law. The European Court of Human Rights belongs to it. The difference between the European Union and the Council of Europe is worth remembering. The first one deals with shared laws and the economy. The second one deals with human rights, and it has a court you can turn to if your own state has violated them. Level 4, the whole world. Sweden is a member of the United Nations. Almost every country in the world belongs to it, and it was founded in 1946 after the Second World War. It has 4 goals: to keep peace and security in the world, to solve conflicts and stop wars, to work for the equal worth and self-determination of all peoples, and to work for human rights and freedoms. And then there's what Sweden does on its own. The Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, known as SIDA, is a government agency working to reduce poverty and oppression in the world. Through SIDA, Sweden supports other countries in developing democracy, equality, the economy, and a sustainable society. Let's remember this. Nordic cooperation runs through the Nordic Council and the Nordic Council of Ministers. Sweden has been in the European Union since '95, and it gives 4 freedoms: to study, to move, to work, to trade. The Council of Europe was founded in '49 and works with human rights, and the European Court of Human Rights belongs to it. The United Nations was founded in '46, and SIDA is the Swedish Agency for Development Aid. One part left, and this one touches us directly, much more directly than it might seem at first. Sweden is responsible for defending the country and the people who live in it. And here's the wording from the textbook, worth hearing word for word. Everyone who lives in Sweden and is between 16 and 70 years old may be required to help defend the country, if it becomes necessary. This is called the duty to take part in the total defense. Notice 2 words, who lives, not citizens. The duty is tied to living in the country, not to a passport, unlike the right to vote in parliamentary elections. It's a useful asymmetry to keep in mind. The duties come before the rights. Sweden's total defense has 2 parts, military and civil. The military defense is the armed forces, the army, the navy, and the air force. Their job is to defend Sweden's territory and its independence. On top of that, they have to be able to take part in international operations. Sweden has universal conscription. It covers all men and women who have turned 18. All of them, men and women both. That's not a slip of the tongue. What happens next is gentler than it sounds. People answer questions and take tests. Then it's decided which of them are suitable for basic military training. And only some of them go on and actually do that training. Now here's the second part of the total defense, the part people usually don't think about. Civil defense means that meeting threats and challenges in society isn't only the military's job. It covers all the work that keeps schools, workplaces, and healthcare running in the event of war or a crisis. This is worth taking in. A teacher, a nurse, a driver, an electrician, someone in the stockroom at a shop, they're part of the country's defense too, and not in a poetic sense. Carrying on with their ordinary work is written right into how the defense is built. The armed forces' task is to strengthen both the military and the civil defense, to raise resilience, and to deter anyone who might attack. Let's pull the series together. For 200 years, Sweden stayed out of it, because once it tried the other way and lost Finland. It said no to NATO through 70 years of the Cold War, and then applied 2 years after Russia attacked Ukraine. It sits inside 4 networks at once: its neighbors, the European Union with its 4 freedoms, the Council of Europe with its Court of Human Rights, and the United Nations. And at the same time, it's preparing its own defense in a way that includes every person living here between 16 and 70. And that leads to a conclusion you rarely hear in a language course. We didn't move to some quiet place off to the side of history. We moved to a country that has just rethought its biggest decision in 200 years. And in that rethinking, we don't only have rights. We have a role written into the law. Let's remember, the duty to take part in the total defense applies to everyone living in Sweden between 16 and 70 years old. The total defense has 2 parts, military and civil. The armed forces are the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. Universal conscription covers men and women from the age of 18, but only some of them do the training. And the civil defense keeps schools, workplaces, and healthcare running in a crisis. That was the course Understanding Sweden. The material comes from the official Citizenship Test textbook. Nothing added, nothing left out.